Hey everybody, welcome to the Talkies. This is where three filmmakers talk about movies, and today we are going to be talking about and spoiling Paths of Glory. I am Kenny.
I'm D.
I am Taylor.
And this wraps up our deep dive into the works of Stanley K.
Wow.
Yeah,
this is our last one.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a while. We've done it like
end.
6 weeks or something crazy like that.
Yeah, this was
We
cool.
didn't do every single Kubrick movie though.
No.
We
All
did
the
draw
ones
a
that
line.
we wanted to talk about.
We've
Exactly.
had we've had long debate about what makes a Kubrick a Kubrick,
And why we'd want to talk about it in the
yeah,
first place.
because I mean he worked in Hollywood as kind of like a hired guy, in addition to being before being an auteur.
He was like,
say?
I would say it's more like he was getting his bearings and developing his style with his first three features.
I can feel that. I can definitely feel that in this one.
And Paths of Glory, I would say, is the first feature he made that felt like his style was fully forming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely sense that. The only thing that would have made this feel more Kubrick-y would be if it had some like extremely recognizable pieces of music.
Yeah.
added
Oh,
to it.
yeah.
Like
I was gonna say.
that's the one trick he picks up a little later.
He does.
Yeah, I was like, is Paths of Glory the first movie that has classical music in a Kubrick film?
Feel like it does.
It does have classical music.
It does.
In it. Yeah, there's
I didn't even-
the waltz scene when
didn't
everyone's
even-
dancing at the party.
Yes, but it's sort of diegetic, isn't it?
It is,
isn't it?
yeah.
Ooh.
But it's probably the first appearance of classical music in
Oh, yeah,
Stanley
probably.
Kubrick's work.
Fine. We'll give it a pass. Fine. Yeah. So, hot takes on Paths of Glory.
Yeah. 58. Shot in 58, right?
Yep.
Or
Released in 58.
Yeah, it's like this guy lived forever.
He had
Yeah.
a very long career.
Like with the exception of the very most modern era of filmmaking, it's like he worked in every era of filmmaking. He
Yeah.
just needed a silent film
yeah.
to
Right.
have covered the whole history of film, you know?
Pretty much, dude.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What a mensch.
Hot take.
Me?
Yeah, you
first.
Yeah, you first.
This is the second time I've seen this movie. I only seen it once before, so I was excited to watch it. And you know what? I still love it.
Well, you-
still
what?
love it. I loved it the first time. I loved it this time.
That's crazy.
Thought it was amazing. Thought it was great. I think it's. I always like Kubrick's war movies, and that's like a genre of movie Kubrick always went back to. Is one of the few genres that Kubrick like revisited multiple times in his career. So I think his fascination of war makes for really good cinema.
Yeah.
And like the dichot, I loved watching like, I guess the really dark, like sad absurdity of the whole story of Path of Glory. Basically, you know, the fact of like
Yeah.
killing three random guys in some cases not so random, soldiers to make an example of them because they were being pinned down by incessant gunfire.
Yeah.
That's
While their leader was going insane.
while our
Yeah.
leader was going insane, and you know, and that's based on history.
it's
You know,
war
that
for ya.
that happened, that people were executed for cowardice behavior
Well,
in the face of enemy.
Your punishment is to die because you didn't choose to die.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
And it'll make other soldiers feel better to see some
see
people
other-
die.
to see
It'll
people
be good.
die,
It's
yeah.
good for
Good
morale.
for morale. What? Good for morale.
I mean, I can see, I guess, kind of both perspectives, but yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
It's definitely
I
weird.
think, and I actually thought it was kind of cool because I think Kubrick did throw in some of those other perspectives. Like sometimes the generals made a little bit of sense. Like
Right.
I can see where they're coming from, you know. So
Right.
it wasn't so black and white, even though I think he was definitively saying this is bad.
But
you can
it-
tell Kubrick's
it-
anti-war.
Yeah.
And it gives you a perspective on war that is not typically in our war movies.
Not an American.
It really
ones, right?
doesn't.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he could have even really gotten away with that in the 50s if it wasn't about the
France.
French military.
Yeah, that kind of bothered me a little bit that the movie wasn't in French, and I wish it was.
I mentioned
that is
that to
kinda
Taylor
weird.
right after. That's actually something that it sort of messes me up whenever I watch old movies that are period pieces take place in other parts of the world,
Yeah.
because pretty much across the board back then, if a movie took place anywhere other than the United States, they still spoke English, but usually with a British accent. That's how they did it. They're like, well, we just want you to know we're not American, so we'll use a British accent.
Well, okay,
but we want to be completely understood.
But Kubrick was not American, right?
Kubrick was
Kubrick's American.
He's
He
a
is
New Yorker.
He just loves shooting in England.
He just loves. Okay,
and he lived
okay.
in England.
Okay,
yeah.
He
lived in England, but he's American.
Yeah, he was
born
moved
in
to-
America anyway.
Yeah, he moved to America in like the middle of his career.
Gotcha.
So he was actually living in America during
That
this
time.
film.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Kirk Douglas. Okay, that makes sense.
So we talk about perspective. Now this has a very alt perspective on war,
Yeah.
at least from a movie point of view of that time, especially. That was my first takeaway from my first viewing of Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Was like, oh, I'm looking at war in a whole nother way, and it hit me so deep that, oh, this is the real ugly side of war. And it's interesting that here we are so much earlier. What, a full like almost 40 years?
Oh, yeah.
30 years, but 40 years before.
Yeah. Full Metal Jacket was like 1980 or something like that.
So 30 something years before.
Right.
And the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although it's a different ugly side.
It's a different
It's
story,
the
yeah.
ugly side of like the bureaucracy and the politics of
Yeah,
war.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I thought that was really poignant, and then true to very Kubrick sort of vibe. It felt like one story ended and a new story began.
I didn't feel that way, actually.
I felt like there was a whole nother little short at the end with them singing.
With them singing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that little part did feel like it was its own thing.
It was a cap to end off the movie.
Yeah, it felt
It's like we've told our story. Now I want to hit a vibe at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. So I enjoyed pretty much. I really love this movie. It's funny because as we're watching it, the movie that comes to mind, like we were talking about when we saw it, was 1917.
Trenches.
Yeah, because trench warfare. And I was thinking at the time of watching this one, Paths of Glory, I'm thinking, man, this is better than 1917. You know, just like right off the bat, the story is actually what captivated me, but like even the cinematography too was like pretty amazing.
There's quite a few shots that always floor me in this movie, and like the whole the battle sequence in this movie with all those crazy dolly shots over no man's land with a ton of soldiers going and explosions everywhere.
It felt Kurosawa.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah,
That was cool.
But
Good movie.
Yeah, what I didn't like though was that ending. I didn't like the ending because it felt like the writer, whoever wrote that part in the script, felt like, okay, now this, and I just wasn't informed by anything that happened before it. And the reason why I felt that way, I think in the first place, is because the whole movie, the reason why I liked it so much is because it tells a story. It's very much just this story first and everything else second, right? It very much feels like it's telling one single thing. And so at the very end, that's where it got more Kubrick, like you said, where it's like, okay, we're going to insert this other part because that's what I want. I just want that part there.
Yeah.
Which is fine. You know, if you're a Kubrick, if you're him, that's absolutely, I get it. For someone who...
You just want everything motivated by a plot.
Yeah, exactly. For someone who...
Lame.
It's very childish.
Boring.
For someone who watches things for
Cannot
the
agree
plot,
with you.
then
Plot.
it feels a little strange, yeah.
The plot was over.
Apparently.
It was.
Apparently. It felt Charlie Kaufman.
I love movies that I can't predict. That's usually my biggest
That's usually your thing.
thing that ties me up with a movie is if I have a strong sense of what's coming before it happens, I get kind of annoyed.
Yeah.
And I was certain that some kind of intervention was going to stop the execution.
Oh, really?
Like I really did.
Why?
There's a couple times where they fake you out too.
And the fact that they went all the way through
That's weird.
to the end.
I didn't expect that at all.
It just felt like that was the story that we were telling of this courageous officer and Kirk Douglas's character.
Had that happened, I would have like hated the movie.
Yeah, that would have been pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah.
It felt like they were setting up for that, and I think it was meant to be a gut check
Right.
to
For the mass audience
the
at the
audiences
time.
at the time.
Definitely. I could definitely see that, yeah.
And older movies especially tend to be a little more on the nose. They kind of led you along down a path. And they all tend to have a happy ending. We are in the middle of crime-ridden Citrus Heights, so if you hear sirens in the background, you know why.
Crime-ridden?
Yeah, we're we're in a bad place.
This is a bad spot.
This is
right
bad
now.
for 2020. You think 2020 is bad? Try 2020 on the talkies.
2020.
Those guys started. They stopped like right there. That's
Dude,
funny.
that corner is always going ham.
Okay. Anyways, back to the movie. Yeah. So in a 1950s war movie, they always the point was patriotism and happy endings.
Yeah.
Right. And so and obviously Douglas was the babyface hero of this.
Sure. Yeah, it was actually kind of weird that they even had kind of a heroic story for him at the end, where after he couldn't save the guys, he went after the general. I don't remember the ranks, but the highest ranking guy here.
Yeah.
Where he went after him and threatened him with blackmail. And then the guy accepted basically the blackmail and was like, well, you got the other guy's job now. It's like, that's what you were after, right? And he's like, no.
He's like, no, I was after justice.
That was like the saddest part, was the guy
Yeah.
thought he was giving the guy what he wanted.
Yeah, and he couldn't
Yeah.
even believe it too.
Yeah.
Right.
He refused to believe
He's
it.
like, oh, you wanted to save I didn't even catch that.
Well, and what was
like he's that disconnected
Right.
from the humanity.
But what was
Yeah.
neat about that is it felt like that guy, that high-ranking officer guy, was like he understood like the greater of what was happening here. I can't remember exactly what.
Yes.
It felt like he got the last line basically, where he's like, yeah, you're an idealist, but look where you are.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And I had that sort of pang. It was not a comfortable feeling, but
Yeah.
realizing that, well, he's kind of right.
Right.
Like he's sort of the villain here in terms of what's humane and what feels good.
Yeah.
But if his job is, in fact, just to win a war, he does have to be blind to certain things
Yeah.
Yeah.
and look at soldiers as numbers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I love that he brought that up because
very
that's,
non-romantic ideas.
yeah, that's one of those things that,
Dehumanization.
yeah, that's one of those things that
Intentionally
I hate about black and white movies, not literally black and white, but ideally black and white movies, where you have the good people and the
versus
bad
evil,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that those bad people all have a motivation. You just don't get to see it often.
Yeah.
And this one you got to, which was pretty
This
cool.
is a surprisingly nuanced film for the 1950s.
Definitely.
Yeah.
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 It's like it's early 60s. We'll call it that.
Right.
Yeah, pre-60s.
Yeah, he was like ahead of his time.
Proto-60s.
Proto
Yeah.
60s. Yeah.
Do you know anything about how this film was received?
I think it was critically received well. I think it was a critical darling. I don't know if it was a huge hit or anything, but it was received well critically from what I'm aware.
I could honestly see American audiences going to this movie and accepting what they're seeing on the screen because it's French, because they're French.
No, that's actually what came to mind too.
Yeah.
Is I was like,
If this was the American
Yeah.
military, they would have wanted to see the general save the soldiers at the end.
Right.
There had to be a heroic ending.
right. They're like, oh, well, thank God that's not us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it kind of made me think.
backwards French, of course.
Right. It kind of made me think about what I said earlier about I wish the movie was in French, was that it would be a pretty crazy thing, to be enveloped by this, French bureaucracy and everything about surrounding the military.
Yeah.
But having it be in English gives that step closer to immersion for Americans, where you're just like, oh yeah, I get what's going on, and that's not just the ugly French people. That's military. I get it. It's us. But like you said, to identify them people as being French,
Yeah.
it's just another step where Americans can be
of
like,
course,
oh yeah, well,
wouldn't,
it's not
it
us,
wouldn't
though.
stir any pots today. I mean, I'd say most modern military films include are pretty clear about the failures and mistakes of.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason why. What was that recent film called? American Sniper. Do you remember that movie?
Bradley Cooper,
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood.
So that movie was like, it was daring to be the heroic American movie, right? Am I right
Just
in that?
directed by Clint Eastwood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes sense.
It was like a heroic movie, right?
Yes, it was relatively heroic, and Bradley Cooper kind of was like conflicted and like kind of
Right.
weird.
So it's like daring to be heroic.
Yeah.
You know, like you're going against the grain by
Oh, sure, right.
by being pro-military.
Yeah, it is kind of
So
that.
so it's funny to see that transition.
Now it's kind of the other
Yeah,
way.
not many movies are pro-military right now.
It's pretty popular
except
to
for
hate on war
WWE
now.
films.
WWE films.
Yeah, that's a thing. I'm not kidding.
The
Not fans?
no,
Oh, all right, okay.
How many people here watch WWE?
WWE films.
what is that?
They have their own film production arm. They make high quality straight to DVD movies.
You're just making this up.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
The
The Marine, starring John Cena. This is real.
That's okay.
I think the end of this movie works for me because I like the like after seeing like a really really sad story where people are being dehumanized and basically just taken out to get killed, and just the horrors of that, and then seeing those same soldiers, in a bar getting all rowdy, being general soldier type people, and then kind of having that almost like facade of a manly soldier
Yep.
fade away
Yep.
at the serenade is like really
Yeah.
touching
At the voice
that
of the
moment.
captured enemy.
Yeah.
Like it almost felt like they were setting up some kind of like gang rape scene of some
I
kind.
don't know.
Yeah.
The whole thing felt cheesy to me, that part. And
Boo, D, boo.
I've seen,
Booty.
it's just that I've seen it.
Booty.
And this is again an aging thing, but I've seen that scene several times before. But of course, it wasn't in older
But was it
movies.
done well?
Well, I mean, it was done like this one.
Was
So-
it done well in this movie?
Yeah, no, it was done well in this movie.
Then does it matter if you've seen it again?
No, so the context is what's shaping my opinion at that point, But the context is what shapes all of our opinions. So
Not mine.
yeah, it bothered me for a different reason altogether. But yeah, I agree that it was done well.
What I liked about the scene, it wasn't so much that scene that was poignant to me. It was the very last line of the movie, and I think that it was meant to set up the last line because ultimately the main character is Michael Douglas.
Right.
He's the arc, and the final
Michael
bit
Douglas.
was Kirk.
Yeah.
Michael.
Not his son.
Which one are we talking about? Kirk.
Kirk.
Kurt.
Kirk.
Dougie.
Spock.
We'll go with Dougie.
Let's go with Dougie. Yeah.
Anyway, Dougie is the main character, and they come up to him and basically say, "You got to get back to the trenches now. It's
Yeah.
time to get back to the front line." And he says, "You know what? Let's give the guys another minute."
Yeah.
And actually, I thought that was the powerful send off for the movie.
Yeah.
And wouldn't have really had it without the scene we had just seen before.
Right. Yeah, I could totally agree with that. Yeah, when it came back from that scene to his perspective, and it ended with that line with him going back into the office, like that felt good because it wrapped up what we've been seeing. That whole scene was his perspective. It was just everything that he's been listening to this whole time. It was weird to me that they jumped from his perspective to inside and then just like explored everyone, like even had close up of shots of guys crying, of the girl singing and everything. It felt like we went into a short film and then came back out and we're like, oh, remember he's looking at that, and we're like, oh, right. Like that was
Yeah, but that, to me
Weird
that's
thing.
that's a Kubrickism.
it's very it's
Yeah.
him. It feels
That's good
him.
cinema.
That's what we signed up
That's
for.
not
bro.
good cinema
Yes,
though.
it
That
is.
is good cinema.
It's not.
Yes,
That's
it
not what I
is.
would consider
Good
good cinema.
That's what I would consider
Real.
cinema.
I consider it a movie.
D.
Hi.
D.
Hi, how's it going, man?
Hey. Okay.
Okay. Oh, Kubrick at large. That's what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Where is he? He's at large.
He's at large.
Kubrick at large. Where in the world?
It
is-
was interesting because so one of the movies we decided not to watch was Lolita because it's generic more or less.
No.
No, that's not why.
Why did we
it's-
decide not to watch
Why did we
Lolita?
We
decide?
didn't decide to watch Lolita because you didn't want to watch it.
Oh, dang. Because I didn't take a vote on this, really.
Okay, did we? So you guys just blindly followed what I said.
Well, we decided if we didn't want to watch a movie, we wouldn't watch it.
If anyone didn't want to watch it, then we wouldn't watch
Yeah.
it.
Lolita is a movie that's pretty generic. It tells a really, really good story because I think because Lolita is I mean, it's a banned book. It's a really good story.
Their whole marketing campaign was they made a movie of Lolita.
Right. Well, and what's weird about it though is that I don't think the the story in the book is very strange, because it's about like a not an assassin but like a murderer or something. It's about a guy with it's a very strange perspective, but the whole idea of the book of a older person being with a younger person is a very interesting context to explore with a story within. And so that being made into a movie, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be an interesting movie. But then when I watched it, I didn't feel Kubrick at all. I didn't feel like, oh, hey, this is that guy that's going to later make all this awesome stuff. It was just a really, a well done, comprehensive movie. Just a movie that's about these perspectives, and it's shot properly. And so that's particularly why I didn't think it would be interesting to go back and watch it. Yeah. But anyway,
it is a Kubrick movie, though.
Ooh. I don't care. But Kubrick making that movie and then making something like this, Paths of Glory, and then going from there to make the crazier movies, it makes me think that Kubrick grew up as a company man, more or less, as someone who was just really proficient at making movies, and then he starts to invest himself more and get really into the movies to where he gets to Eyes Wide Shut, and it's just almost purely surrealist, right? It's just like, it's very him.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, his craft in filmmaking always evolved. It was always getting better and better and better and better.
Yeah.
He was always trying to do a better movie.
What I'm saying is that his personality wasn't as present in those earlier ones as it is in something like all of his newer movies.
I think so. I think you get some pretty big hints of it in Paths of Glory, I think.
Some hints, yeah.
And but I think that's like the skill of filmmaking, right? Is like, how do you get your personality into a film? Like, that takes practice
and it's finding
craft
yourself.
And finding yourself and
Yeah.
living life and all that, and making movies and making mistakes making movies, all that.
Well,
which is what you see in his like first three, even into Paths of Glory, you see that. You know?
Into Paths of Glory too. And that's what's interesting is that in Lolita, there were some shots and some instances that I feel like, oh, hey, I can see the personality that's starting to take hold there a little bit. But more or less, it's a movie that I felt like is the best kind of proficiency. It feels very Ron Howard. That's what it feels. It feels like somebody who's good, proficient at making movies. Because like, he knows exactly where to shoot and what to cut to, and that's just it's great. It's proficient. But then when we start getting to his other movies, it feels like we're getting like something more. It feels like we're getting a voice in cinema, and that feels really nice.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's why all his later films are the real famous ones.
Oh, yeah.
The real iconic ones.
Yeah.
You don't become iconic just by being proficient, do you?
Well, you don't, unless you're Ron Howard.
Is Ron Howard iconic?
He's an icon? No, I don't think so. He's not an icon.
He had the Andy Griffith Show bump.
Yeah, that's the only iconic thing he's in.
Yeah, and The Music Man.
No, we're talking about the guy who made Solo.
A Star Wars story?
I didn't think we'd be mocking Ron Howard in this episode. That's a little surprising detour. Whenever they do a long backwards or forwards tracking shot in a trench, I'm just impressed. I'm just like, there's a guy carrying that camera or rolling it on something, and I can't tell how they're doing it, and it's cool.
You couldn't tell? To me, it didn't feel obvious at all, but it felt like I could feel the struggle of the cameraman.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm like, I know that's not a dolly, right?
It might
There's
have been
track,
a dolly,
unless it was a track like above. Unless they're just rolling it on tires.
Well, I think maybe it was something like that. Yeah, because the shots still felt shaky.
There was not that shaky. Shaky enough to where it felt like it was in a human's hands. I felt like it was in a human, like someone was carrying it, which meant they were doing really good at handheld.
Maybe. Or it was just a badly built track, which is what I believe it was. Just a track over, because I know they could have done like a very, very smooth track if they really wanted to. But I'm guessing that the idea was to not have it so smooth because it's a chaotic scene that's happening. So they probably wanted some sort of sense of that in the shot. So there is that. but I felt like it was just kind of a bumpy track. But then now that I say that, actually, that makes less sense. So
Yeah.
I think, maybe it was someone carrying it.
I think it was. It was cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, some of the shots here I thought were just like awesome mise-en-scène, where we have the people. It reminded me a lot of Citizen Kane, where we have people in certain areas at certain times, and like Kurosawa, I can't say his name right. We have people moving to certain points during points of conversation, and they all feel motivated. Like they don't feel like someone is. It doesn't feel like the director is saying, "Okay, now go here when you speak," because that's certainly what happened. But it felt good. It felt like the people were moving like just naturally to another spot, stopping, and then going back. It was pretty interesting. There was one time where in the opening scene where we have those officers talking the whole time, and they're walking the entire time in this tiny little room.
Yeah, that's some crazy blocking.
Yeah, they stand up, sit down, walk around in circles. One guy sits, the other guy walks around. There was one point where one of the guys turned his head and spoke away from the mic, and that made me go, "Oh wow, they're really working these spots, right? This must have been like really rehearsed a lot." There's just so many points that you have to get to. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, that scene was always funny to me because they move around so much.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, we're running everywhere.
It reminds me of a Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
So that's something in all the Hitchcock films. When two characters are in a room together,
they can move around.
They do not stay still. They move a ton.
It feels good though.
It's great. Yeah.
I don't know if that's just classic movie person D who's talking in my head. Like I felt because I've studied so many black and white films when I was in film school, and some of the things that just made the most sense to me was blocking, because you don't have cameras that can isolate very well unless you're freaking, what's his name in Citizen Kane? What's the dude's name?
Orson Welles.
Unless you're Orson Welles, because you play with light so much. But like Bicycle Thief and like 12 Angry Men, like those are movies that you have to situate your camera in certain ways in order to make sense of what's in front of you. You like to create a close up because it's interesting, because the person who's talking, you're drawing a certain attention in certain places. And that's what Kurosawa was all about too. Was all about framing specifically, very specifically, and very intentional framing.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we do some retrospective on our deep dive?
Yeah.
What was your guys' favorite experience, either seeing for the first time or revisiting a Kubrick movie during our deep dive, specifically through these viewings that we've done together?
That's a good question.
For me, the most surprising one to me was actually Dr. Strangelove. That movie clicked on another level for me just on this rewatch. That was probably my third time watching it. And I felt like that movie kind of just shot up to like one of my favorite Kubricks, just seeing it that one time. That was a really good viewing, fun time. And Barry Lyndon was a highlight. Yep.
I got to say the same. I probably would have mentioned both of those movies, but I'll just go ahead and just say Barry. The Barry Lyndon viewing was such a delightful surprise, not knowing at all what I was getting into. Mm-hmm. The same was true with Dr. Strangelove. I didn't know anything about the film going into it, and both were such an enjoyable, non-hyped experience.
Yeah.
It just knew nothing.
Non-hyped.
Yeah,
that's what you need. You need a non-hyped experience for a movie.
Yeah, and trying to he's such a fun filmmaker because he's so diverse in his work.
Yeah.
And so having seen the handful of films that I had seen and being told, okay, today we're watching a new Kubrick film you haven't seen before, and my mind tries to create an anticipation of what that's going to be like, and then having an experience that is absolutely different, just fundamentally off from what I thought it would be, is the greatest joy of viewing a movie.
The most interesting, I think, of viewing to me was what's the name? Full Metal Jacket. Because it was the most, at that time, I've only seen Kubrick do these highly expressive films, like these films that have so much personality in them, like Barry Lyndon, like 2001, and then seeing a movie like that, I was just like, oh wow, he's literally doing just a straight-laced movie, just a war movie, and it has some surrealistic elements in it, I guess, but it was interesting just to see just regular dialogue. I've never seen that in a Kubrick movie before, so that was probably the most out of my expectations. But as far as my favorite, I mean, Barry Lyndon is probably my favorite Kubrick film, just from the thing that we just did. We just did this whole
Our deep
filmography.
dive.
Yeah. And the most fun viewing was probably Doctor Strangelove.
That was hella fun. That was really fun viewing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've thought so much and so long about Stanley Kubrick as a director. It's like revisiting some of these movies was like I love rewatching all of his movies anyway, like just anytime pretty much. But like it was cool to give some more attention to like Paths of Glory, which I'd only seen once before, where I've seen like Full Metal Jacket like 20 times. Something crazy like that. Yeah. So that was fun. And thinking about The Shining again, like that movie's crazy. I want to say I still feel like I think like Eyes Wide Shut and 2001 are still my two favorite Kubrick movies. Boom. Boom.
Oh
Boom.
my
Mic drop.
gosh.
Boom. 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 Boom.
Oh my gosh.
Boom.
How can? Wow.
Boom. Boom.
Wow.
Boom.
Oh.
Boom.
Oh my. Well, I haven't said my favorite.
Yeah.
And you guys.
What was your
have.
favorite?
I don't know.
Barry Lyndon is the correct answer.
I don't know. Let me think. Going into this, I would have told you that Full Metal Jacket was my favorite.
Let me addendum or supplement.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Going into this, 2001 was my favorite.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Going into this, it was Full Metal Jacket. And honestly, every viewing made me kind of reassess which my favorite movie was, including bumping Clockwork Orange much higher in my list than it had been previously. Like I'd always considered that in like the second tier, had my top tier was like 2001, Eyes Wide Shut, Full Metal Jacket, Shining. And then there was a second tier.
Yeah.
And my tier system's blown up because Clockwork Orange was awesome.
That movie's amazing.
It was so good. Dr. Strangelove, there's not another comedy like it. In conclusion,
Yes.
I have no idea what my favorite Kubrick movie is. I can't.
That's a good answer.
Just can't do it.
Good
Good
answer.
answer.
Good
Can't
answer.
do
Big
it.
money. Good answer.
Thank you.
Good answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stanley Kubrick. What can,
What
you
can we
say?
say about Stanley Kubrick?
Oh,
can
what
you
kind of
say?
pizza is Stanley Kubrick?
Holy
Oh,
shit.
Jesus.
A human pizza. A cannibal
He's
pizza.
Jesus.
Yeah. Jesus, human pizza? What kind of pizza was Paths of Glory?
Pepperoni pizza.
Good choice. D.
Pepperoni pizza.
Good choice. I go with a pizza that tastes like a brick oven, or like super nice Italian pizzeria, but is cut in the shape of a Little Caesars square pizza.
Detroit style?
Huh?
Detroit style?
Detroit? Do they cut squares?
Yeah, they got that square pizza with the
That's
cheese
Detroit?
on the crisped on the edges.
No.
That's Detroit style.
No. Bigfoot pizza. You got to go back into the 90s to recall this. Little Caesars used to have pizza by the foot. It was a 3-foot long pizza.
Like fruit roll-ups?
Yes, it was before that, though. It was
And the
before
pizza
that.
was rolled up.
Okay. What kind of pizza is Stanley Kubrick?
I already told you.
Thanks, D. Taylor.
It's a pizza
He doesn't
shaped by
have a pizza.
interpretation.
There is no pizza that can be
there's no
Kubrick.
pizza equivalent.
Oh my gosh. That's the real question. What kind of Kubrick is your favorite pizza?
Stanley.
Are you waiting for an answer? Yeah, I don't have an answer.
So we're gonna be doing more.
What are we doing?
We're gonna be doing another. Well, okay, we're gonna take.
Are you doing the outro?
Yeah,
I'm
I am.
supposed to do the outro.
I'm doing it right now. We're gonna take a break from deep diving into filmmakers.
We're gonna watch Tenet. We're gonna watch Tenet.
Filmographies.
We're watching Tenet next week.
Next week, we're gonna see Tenet. We're going to talk about Tenet.
We're all going to get COVID.
We're all going to get COVID in the theater, and we'll be sick talking about Tenet, but it'll be fine. Doesn't matter. Then we'll go see... then after that, we're going to do...
Kaufman.
That Charlie Kaufman movie that just came out. What's that called?
I'm thinking about ending things.
Yep. We're going to do that.
Charlie K.
Do you already watched it?
I did, yeah.
Dang.
We're gonna watch that, and then after that, we're gonna jump and do. I think we're gonna do a deep dive into another filmmaker.
We
Is that
will.
right?
It's
To be
either
decided.
going to
In fact,
yeah.
you
TBD.
guys, the viewers, the listeners, should
Nope.
vote.
Nope.
No.
Dial
No,
pound.
we don't
Coen.
do audience interaction here.
Star Coen
Sorry,
brothers
sorry.
to
would
vote
be-
for the
I
Coen
would be
brothers.
interested if we have any comments out there. If people care to comment.
Miyazaki deep dive.
We kind of already I mean, we didn't do it, but we did go down that route a little bit.
Ooh.
Nolan deep dive. We talked about that too.
That would be fun.
It'd be fun.
Would be.
Kurosawa
I was
deep
about to
dive.
say that.
Kurosawa.
That would be
That's
crazy because
kinda
I've never
where-
seen any of his movies all the way through.
That's what I'm down for.
Dude.
lately. I'm down for
Kurosawa deep dive.
He's got a shitload of movies.
I know.
He's
Yeah.
got like 50
We probably
films.
can't do all those.
Yeah, I'd have to look up a.
Take us 2 years.
Top 5 maybe.
I'll
yeah.
do some research.
Yeah.
Look up a guide. Or
Seven
something.
Samurai.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder deep dive.
No,
Fuck
thank
you.
you. Eat,
No.
poop, and die, D. Hey, Frank, we know you're listening. Frank. Frank. Fishy Frank.
Fishy Frank.
Hi.
Is that his name?
Frank Fish.
Fishy Frank.
Fish.
It is. No, it is Fishy Frank.
Fishy
because I remember
Frank.
thinking Filthy Frank. That's funny.
Filthy Frank. No, Fishy Frank. He's a fan.
And some other guy too.
Yeah, we've got at least 2 fans. That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
If we get 3, then we're even. Because, it's 3
One
of us.
for each of us.
One for each of us.
3 fans.
Everyone's gonna be like, I like Taylor. Just everyone says that.
Team Taylor.
Team Taylor. Okay, wait. So our fans are we have Fishy Frank.
Oh.
Are you disappointed? And Adam Griffith.
Yeah.
And
Adam.
Jay Diaz is a huge fan
Oh, yeah.
because he says, laughing my ass off, pointless arguments.
Yeah.
That is funny. That's how I felt. I was watching that. I was like,
Yeah.
pointless arguments,
This
guys.
is what we do.
I feel that way every episode.
Yeah, every episode
Like,
is
this
that
is
way.
pointless.
This is
Like,
pointless.
damn,
Why are
dude.
we
We
even
should
doing
have a
this?
segment where we
Isn't
read
life
comments
pointless,
from our channel.
We should do that. We should do that.
I like that. Especially mean ones. We get a lot of
Do
those.
we have any mean ones?
Not really.
Do we have any haters?
We got like passive aggressive.
We got the guy that said we have
Passive-aggressive
point.
ones.
Yeah.
LaMayo, pointless arguments. D, do our closer. Close us out, man. Take us home, buddy. Take us home. Land this airplane, bro.
Land it, bro.
Do
This-
it.
Land it, bro.
This has been The Talkies by Karman Line Studios. We have an episode every Thursday, every week. We're going to be good about that now because we have an amazing setup now.
It's called a calendar.
Yeah, it's a really cool calendar. And we're going to be, this is our last episode for our Kubrick deep dive. As Taylor said, our next one is going to be on Tenet. And the next one after that, Charlie Kaufman's
I'm thinking of ending things.
That's the one. So we will see you guys later.
Bye.